There is a allegedly rogue Chinese balloon that has floated aggressively over the United States of America. And various people are saying crazy things. But let's start off with the top of this. U.S. Secretary of State Blinken, he was supposed to visit China, but because of this balloon incident, we might have to put that visit on hold. But here's a little news report on that.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has postponed his visit to Beijing. This comes a day after a suspected Chinese spy balloon was spotted in U.S. airspace. Blinken said that conditions were not conducive for a constructive visit at this time. Meanwhile,
buddy.
Pentagon has revealed that the balloon has changed course and is floating over central United States. Here's a report.
Yeah.
In light of China's unacceptable action, I am postponing my planned travel this weekend to China.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said his visit to China was on hold, a trip that had been expected to start on Friday as a suspected Chinese spy balloon floated across the United States.
Yesterday, the Department of Defense announced that we had detected and were tracking a high-altitude surveillance balloon that remains over the continental United States.
Yeah.
We continue to track and monitor the balloon closely. We're confident this is a Chinese surveillance balloon. The presence of this surveillance balloon in U.S. airspace is a clear violation of U.S. sovereignty and international law, that it's an irresponsible act, and that the PRC's decision to take this action on the eve of my planned visit is detrimental to the substantive discussions that we were prepared to have.
What are we talking about?
Officials said military leaders considered shooting the balloon down over Montana on Wednesday, but declined due to the safety risk from falling debris. China earlier
balloon falling on
expressed
somebody's
regret
head?
that what it called a civilian airship had strayed into U.S. territory after being blown off course.
Oh, right.
On Friday, Pentagon spokesman Brigadier General Patrick Ryder said the balloon had changed course and was now floating eastward at about 60,000 feet and demonstrated a capability to maneuver. But he would not go into specifics.
But does the public not have a right to know if
The public certainly has the ability to look up in the sky and see where the balloon is.
Ryder said the balloon was at an altitude well above commercial air traffic and did not present a military or physical threat to people on the ground. Blinken said he was not going to put a date on when he might go to China, and the focus was on resolving the current incident.
The most important thing right now in the moment is to see that this surveillance asset gets out of our airspace, and we'll take it from there.
Oh, yeah?
The trip delay is a blow to those on both sides who saw it as an overdue opportunity to stabilize an increasingly fractious relationship with China. The last visit by a U.S. Secretary of State was in 2017.
China.
There we go. That's all we got.
China.
Right.
China. 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 You go over to China. 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 You take China.
China.
All right. Well, there are other reports that at least one news report saying that this balloon was shot down. There were calls from former President Trump to just shoot this thing down. And the Pentagon and the Biden administration were like, no, we're worried about falling debris, even though it was primarily over Montana, at least when the news broke. If you want to shoot it down, that's probably the perfect place to shoot it down at.
Also, what debris are they talking about? There's like 2 solar panels, a camera, 27 Chinese people. You know, what are they talking about here?
It was unknown, not unless they know a whole lot more about this than we do. What was its payload? Was there some sort of weapon that was there? Was it a delivery system for something? The Chinese are claiming it's just a weather satellite. Is it something more nefarious? They had every opportunity to try to shoot it down, but they didn't. I don't know how easy it is to shoot down a balloon that's 60,000 feet in the air. It's probably not as easy as you would think it would be. I don't think we have artillery that goes that high. A missile seems impractical. Sending a couple fighter jets after it, probably not practical either.
What if we put a couple of dudes in another balloon and had them chase after it?
I think that actually might be the best solution. A good old-fashioned balloon race.
Yeah.
And just start
That's too fast of a balloon.
taking pot shots at the thing.
Yeah.
But there were other reports that this thing was shot down. And here's a news report about that. This is unconfirmed, but it comes from KTVQ News, and this is what they had to say.
A Billings West End woman is going viral tonight on social media after capturing something unforgettable on her cell phone. Dolly Moore tells me that she heard jets fly over her house. Everything started to shake, and that's when she decided to grab her cell phone.
I'm going to catch it on my phone this time.
Dolly Moore says she barely had time to think and instead just started rolling.
And all I could think was, oh my gosh, this is happening again from 2 nights ago.
All the commotion started around 4:45 when she was finishing up her workday. This big window in her home office looks south. She was watching when all of a sudden,
It was this big explosion in the sky.
Surprise,
and all
motherfucker.
this debris started just slowly coming down like it was big smoke.
those images took social
smoke in
media
sky.
by storm.
I'm not a big Twitter person, so just
big Twitter.
I'll just tweet it and like, this is, oh my gosh, this is what I just got.
Mike, we need to
But
ISO
here's
that.
where the
I'm not a
mystery
big Twitter
continues.
person.
Yes.
We reached out to Sheriff Mike Linder, who says there's been no verification of the video from others.
Okay,
Meanwhile, the city
buddy.
tweeting out this, saying they're aware of the video, but they haven't been called to any incidents related to it, and nothing was picked up on radar. And Governor Greg Gianforte telling the city of Billings they don't know of any explosions in, around, or across Montana.
Because to us, it looked like when it first came down, it was like, oh my gosh, it's in our neighborhood. Like, that's scary, you know?
But Moore says the whole thing left her shocked.
Yeah, I was shaken. Like, I thought, oh my gosh, like they just blew it up over our neighborhood. Oh my gosh.
And now she waits to find out what happened. In Billings, Andrea Lutz, MTN News.
So there apparently is no follow-up by this reporter or news
No,
station.
they're done. They did their part.
They didn't talk to anybody else in the neighborhood. They basically called one person at the FAA, and that's it. Now, what is on screen, what is pictured here, it looks like a contrail or a chemtrail. It's quite robust, but this is what they're showing as like as proof that there was something going on in the sky. Now, by all reports, this Chinese balloon that was originally seen over Montana has already made its way to the East Coast. And I think it's on basically over to the East Coast by now.
Yeah, they said it's definitely past Charlotte, North Carolina. So I think we're out over the ocean. So now they're going to go blow it up.
And I understand not wanting to blow it up immediately. It's fun. It lifts people's moods. Everyone loves balloons. But also from maybe a strategic standpoint, maybe they want to monitor what signals are coming to and fro. I don't know if you can do that. Maybe they want to see how it behaves. And like I said, maybe there's some other payload on board. But when it comes to like speculation about what this is or what it could have done, David Wilcox, who was and is most of his fame comes from the UFO community, being on Ancient Aliens, and unfortunately, I don't really like the guy. And he's also tied to Corey Good, the secret space program guy. David Wilcox came out and said his sources told him that this Chinese balloon has an EMP device on it capable of knocking out the grid and electricity right below it once they decide to release this weapon. By everything that I've read, you would need a device much larger than what is capable of being carried by that kind of balloon. And it would have to be a device like, I would say, 10 times as big, and or just a detonation of a nuclear weapon to produce that kind of electromagnetic pulse to wipe out the grid. But it's just funny enough that that term came up because we were talking a lot about EMPs in the Discord chat, and it just comes up in conversation over and over again. I don't believe this is some sort of EMP. It could be an inefficient way to deliver biological weapons, but it also might be just a way to aggravate the United States. But I was also thinking, is there any relation to this balloon to what was going on between 7 to 3 years ago when it comes to UAPs or just drones being operated by unknown people over United States power facilities, whether it is a nuclear reactor plant in Arizona or up in Pennsylvania or Ohio. There are many confirmed drones or unknown vehicles circling and intruding that airspace over the years. So is there any sort of unique data that you have to collect from 60 to 80,000 feet up that you couldn't collect from satellites in space?
No. I think you're missing too that the idea of an EMP is that you would want to blow it up in the atmosphere because it would maintain infrastructure while eliminating all sort of utility. So if you were high enough up, you could literally, I mean, that's the subject of that book. You wouldn't want to blow up a nuclear weapon on the ground if you wanted to maintain infrastructure.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, from what I was reading about, if there could have been an EMP type of device up there, is it practical for that kind of balloon to carry it? I don't know.
I think so.
So Mike, I just want to point out the Hardtack 1 test, April 28th, 1958. They set off a high altitude nuclear test launched by a helium balloon.
Oh, really?
And observed the EMP, and that's kind of where they first started thinking about using that as a possible first strike weapon.
Wow. Okay. Well, kiss my grits. I was thinking that they were trying to measure, get more accurate readings of like the jet stream and air currents in case of some sort of radioactive fallout. But
that's generally how they do shit. Like, hey, let's just send it up there and blow it up, see what happens.
Yeah. So if they do, or anybody starts detonating stuff, they know the exact fallout and that kind of stuff. But there are other things going on. So there is now a confirmed second balloon. We have a second balloon, Joe.
Did you want to? So I have a story that you mentioned the drones.
Sure.
I have a story that talks about the balloons and the drones all in one. If you want that,
I would love that story.
It's in El Carrot Shop.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about that. It's Balloon Day on OBDM. It is. It's Balloon Day. Come on. Sing.
Blue, blue balloon drifting up so high.
All right. The Army wants to launch drone swarms behind enemy lines from high altitude balloons. Wow.
That's some good news on that front.
This comes from thedrive.com. The Drive is probably one of the better websites out there that covers this kind of weird tech kind of stuff, and from a Pentagon DoD military angle.
Mm-hmm.
The balloons could also collect intelligence, serve as communication relays, and send sensors falling down to the ground to watch for enemy activity. Now, this was I'm trying to get the date on this. November 30th, 2020. So not that long ago. The U.S. Army is looking at developing a network of high-altitude balloons that would fly in the stratosphere to be able to launch swarms of unmanned aircraft, including those configured as loitering munitions, also known as suicide drones, over enemy-controlled territory. These lighter-than-air vehicles could also be configured as sensor platforms to collect various kinds of intelligence or deploy other surveillance systems that would fall to the ground in order to monitor hostile movements, as well as act as a communications relay. Fascinating kind of tech. Who thought balloon technology would come so far in the 100 years since, like, the Hindenburg?
I've been telling all the kids they need to major in balloon science.
Balloon tech? Yeah.
Get out in front of that. But anyway, so yeah, to your point about how did all these, who's launching all these drones going over nuclear sites, and now we have balloons flying over. It's like, well, here's a balloon that can launch the drones right over any of your nuclear or missile sites to do some spying on shit.
I love it.
Here's in a previously It was previously known that the Army was exploring using balloons floating in the stratosphere, which begins its altitude range from 23,000 feet to 66,000 feet, depending on where you are on the Earth, for intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance and communication roles. So that's a pretty wide range. You got like a 40,000 foot range for all those kinds of things.
The atmosphere gets thinner in
Yeah.
places.
Well, the atmosphere is it's not as thick as we think it is.
It's only 5 to 7 kilometers thick.
Yeah, that's right.
Look how thick that is.
As part of the larger MDSS network, they would fill something of a gap between traditional ground-based and aerial ISR and communications platforms and space-based systems. So this is a very lengthy article. I'll put this in the podcast description.
Yeah, if you really want to dive into it, it's got like 20 pages on this. But to your point, what can I get out of a balloon I can't get from satellite? Well, you're pretty much getting the same thing, but you can get different sensors. You can use different instrumentation. So it's not replacing satellites; it's augmenting. So you can have your battlefield drones flying over. You can have your high altitude loitering drones fly over. You can have balloons then dropping little drones to really get in there, and then you can have satellites looking at huge swaths of territory. So you can use all of those, and you can see everything you could want about random stuff.
And let's not forget that we read a story that in Texas, there was like a Chinese general that bought 200 acres of land and basically has an airstrip down there. There is a story that we haven't even covered that the Chinese basically have their own police stations in America where
one of them just got shut down, actually, in New York.
Where they basically will arrest dissidents and other Chinese people that are speaking ill about the Chinese government and regime, or maybe they committed some crime over there, but they are arresting people on our soil using their own laws, and apparently our government is doing nothing about it.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's just fine. So we have to look at
Well, also remember when who's the I can't think of the guy's name, the Joint Chiefs, he called China to let them know we were doing shit.
Milley?
General Mark Milley to basically to ask ask for permission before doing stuff.
Yeah. We have to ask, are we allowing, or are certain people within the Pentagon so buddy with the Chinese that they're allowing this incursion by the balloon squadron, the balloons of doom? Or are we just not taking action because it's better to do nothing and just let it do its thing than to try to do something and fail and make us look like we're totally incompetent, which we might be.
So there is, if you look at the Posobiec, I'm not a big fan of this guy. Something weird about him, but
he's a little over the top.
His face, but yeah, he's got a tweet, and some people are pointing to it as though it may be. If you go up above the Kiro 7 News, Seattle, this is his claim.
Jack Posobiec. Is it Posobiec?
Posobiec.
Posobiec. So this is what's on screen. What we now know, the Biden admin knew about the balloon all along, but didn't want to make China mad before Blinken's audience with Xi Jinping this weekend. But a Montana newspaper got footage of it, and they had to go public. Holy shit. So the Biden administration was sitting on this balloon? Balloon gate? Is that what we're looking at here?
Ooh, balloon gate. I love it.
Wow.
Where's Tim?
I mean, the dude is he's he's over a barrel from the Chinese. We know this. I've been saying this forever. Hunter Biden, all these guys, they sold him. If you look at the deck that was found on Hunter Biden's laptop, and they had all the liquefied natural gas fields here in the United States so that they could basically sell them out to China. The whole thing is so shifty. And yeah, China owns them because they probably have all of his pedophile pictures and all the dirt and everything else. And they're just, they sold us out already.
Look at your child.
Yeah.
Chris, why do you have a picture of Stallone from Over the Top on screen?
Because Joe said that Jack Posobiec is a little over the top.
Oh, I see, a little over the top. Okay, fair enough.
Or I'll change it to International Balloon Month. There, how about that?
I saw somebody on Twitter wrote, "You can't have Clown World without balloons."
That is true. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, thank you for that. The other story there, Cratchit, to let us know that these balloons they basically platforms for deployments of sensors, communications, or other drones. We don't know if that's what we saw. It just looked like two panels of solar panels, maybe some like a sensor array. It was really tough to determine what it was capable of, but there are other balloons out there, and this next news report will speak to that. And here we go.
News at 11, the Pentagon now tracking a second Chinese spy balloon currently soaring over South America. This latest high-flying twist adding to the diplomatic dispute between the U.S. and China and also fueling the political debate over what action the United States should take. Next, Eyewitness News reporter Michelle Fisher tracking all the new developments tonight. Michelle?
Mark, the exact location of that second surveillance balloon over Latin America still unclear, but the Pentagon says it does not appear to be heading toward the U.S. As for the one that is drifting over our country, the Pentagon says it does not pose a military risk. Nonetheless, the foreign object from a foreign country has many feeling uneasy. Is China studying the weather or studying the states? The Pentagon today making their answer clear.
We know that it's a surveillance balloon.
It's a rejection of China's claim that it's not a spy vessel, but a civilian airship used for weather research.
We do know that the balloon has violated U.S. airspace and international law, which is unacceptable. And so we've conveyed this directly to
apparently acceptable.
The PRC at multiple levels.
A Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson saying today it accidentally entered U.S. airspace. It first flew over Alaska, then southwest Canada, and into Billings, Montana, where it was spotted Wednesday. Questions about the balloon quickly making their rounds on social media.
This thing is up in the sky.
What the heck is that?
That thing is not the moon.
And off the ground, confused pilots getting a look as well. Take a listen to just some of the calls coming into air traffic control.
We got that balloon in sight also. Looks like it's way up there. Maybe
Jay, what the fuck is that?
feet or so. Okay, we seen that object around a minute ago. The captain, myself, I saw it dive like 20,000 feet in seconds.
U.S. officials believe it has a technology bay the size of 3 city buses, high-resolution cameras,
buses.
and what appear to be solar-powered panels. Chinese satellites believed to be maneuvering the balloon as it drifts east across the country. As some call for it to be shot down, the Pentagon says the solution isn't that simple.
Out of an abundance of caution, cognizant of the potential impact to civilians on the ground from a debris field. Right now, we're going to continue to monitor and review options.
The Pentagon confirming tonight another suspected Chinese spy balloon is also traveling over Latin America.
Oh.
And that balloon is expected to remain over the United States for a couple of days. According to military trackers, it will drift over a, quote, number of sensitive sites. The plan then to possibly shoot it down over U.S. waters. Also important to note, Secretary of State Antony Blinken was set to leave tonight for a planned trip to Beijing. But in light of this balloon, he has now postponed that trip.
I don't think so. Hello, I'm Mark Brown. Get more great ABC7 content by clicking the subscribe button for our...
Thank you, Mark
I'm trying
Brown.
to click the subscribe button there.
Thank you, Mark Brown. I appreciate that. All right.
Nothing about that makes any sense because they could basically puncture that, let it fall, and then they could snag it with a helicopter as it comes down if they didn't want it to land or that doesn't make any sense.
There's a bunch of different ways to take it down, and why wouldn't they to study its sensor array and exactly what it was doing, and to just let it go? It doesn't make a lot of sense.
Well, I like how the spokesman for the Pentagon said it's unacceptable. Well, apparently it's acceptable because you're just letting it go.
Yeah, and apparently, according to Jack Posobiec, the Biden administration knew about this for quite a while, and they didn't tell anybody. They didn't feel the need to just kind of give people a heads up, like, hey, by the way, rogue Chinese weather balloon up there, no need to worry. But if the Chinese could control it, and if the Chinese didn't want to violate U.S. airspace, then why not just bring it down to the ground and say, our bad, we're just going to bring it down before it even gets to anywhere near U.S. airspace, because we don't want to provoke an incident because we got Blinken coming over here to talk about backroom deals. But they knew what was going on. The Chinese, this is nothing new for them. And I'll bring up this old story from 2001 about another international espionage spying incident. And I remember when this happened at the time. I was working at a hospital, and I was an AV tech. I was hired to set up stuff for doctors and conferences and film surgeries. And during this day, when you weren't doing that, you'd you sit in the room and watch the news and dub stuff for other people. But this happened in April of 2001. U.S. plane in China after it collides with Chinese jet. So a United States Navy spy plane on a routine surveillance mission near the Chinese coast collided on Sunday with a Chinese fighter that was closely tailing it. The American plane made...
This is the Hainan Island one?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, this was a big deal right before 9/11.
Right before 9/11. The American plane made an emergency landing in China, and the United States said it was seeking the immediate return of the 24 crew members, all said to be in good condition, and as of the sophisticated aircraft and all its intelligence equipment. So I think they have a mechanism on there to just destroy shit. Like, none of that stuff I don't think got returned. I think everything was destroyed upon landing.
Well, they set off small charges to take out the avionics and the electronics. They don't care about the plane itself.
Yeah. The mid-air crash occurred about 50 miles southeast of China's Hainan Island?
Yeah.
Hainan Island, in what American officials described as international waters, the EP3E. Well, I don't need to read all this stuff. So
yeah, it's an ancient plane. It's a P3, so no one gives a shit. So
we were doing our routine surveillance out there. The Chinese were aware of it. Chinese fighter jet, they said tailing. It actually, according to reports, it flew right in front of our spy plane, and I think it got too close, and I think it maybe clipped the nose or something. It was trying to do, like, the Chinese fighter pilot was trying to do some Top Gun maneuver, and he horribly misjudged, causing this mid-air collision, which thankfully I don't think anyone died. But it was a big international incident.
Actually, I think the Chinese pilot died.
Did he? Okay.
Yeah.
Big international incident. There was, this was all over the news for a few weeks. This was at the same time, like right after this happened, there was that, I think, Chandra Levy incident where there was a U.S. House of Representatives intern that went missing in New York. And that was a big thing. They were suspecting the congressman of killing her. And then 9/11 happened. And so everyone forgot about those two huge stories in the United States. And it just kind of...
Was that before or after Joe Scarborough allegedly murdered his intern?
Both these incidences were after Joe Scarborough. I think Joe Scarborough took place in either early 2001 or late 2000. And the very unfortunate incident to Joe Scarborough's intern, who just so happened to...
I know he resigned in May 2001.
Yeah.
So the same month as the Hainan incident.
Yeah. Oh, really? Wow.
Mm-hmm.
What a big year. So there you go. That's all I mean, I have other stuff on balloons, but I mean, having two balloons like that, one over South America, one over United States here, and then I didn't grab the report, but I did read that Canada has seen, I think, one or two of these big balloons come over its airspace within the past year or two.
Well, Canada's basically China, so that's cool.
Yeah.
They're cool with that.
So there's a lot of different crazy stuff going on in balloon land. So, I mean, do you have anything else to add to this, Joe or Cretchet, or can I move on to another story, please?
And there's a bunch of other stuff around it, but
okay.
I don't know how long we want to dwell on it.
I have one we have to get to related to this.
Okay. Let's do the one we have to get to.
Put this into Carrot Shop. So if you're thinking about possibly taking law into your own hands, here's the police telling you not to do it.
Okay. And is there appears to be some kind of video? We could technically listen to the article, which
with robot voice.
With robot voice.
Ugh.
But how about I just like read the headline here? Police beg locals to refrain from taking pot shots at Chinese spy balloon. So don't do that, okay?
That's good news.
That's like the fun part of owning guns is that you can try, even though it would be incredibly difficult to hit an object 60,000 feet up with your Winchester 12 gauge. You don't get anywhere from not trying, though. You know, if you want to go out there and crack a few off into the sky, why not?
This is specific to North Carolina, so as it's flying over North Carolina, the police are getting out there and saying, "Yeah, it's at 60,000 feet. Please don't go out and just start firing at it, because yeah, to your point,
blasts.
Biden was going to help.
The house.
He likes to fire 2 blasts outside the house.
He's waiting. If that thing flies over Rehoboth Beach, he's out there firing 2 blasts."
North Carolina police are urging residents to refrain from aiming their guns into the sky to take pot shots at the Chinese spy balloon that may be headed their way. President Joe Biden faced Republican backlash after deciding on the advice of military leaders against shooting down the high-altitude surveillance balloon when it was spotted over Montana earlier this week. Earlier this week?
Well, this story is from yesterday, and I think it was spotted on Thursday night or something, right?
So earlier this week. Earlier this week would be Monday or Tuesday.
You're right. That's a little fishy. When was it actually first acknowledged that it was over Montana?
I heard it. I acknowledged the story yesterday, and that's I think when it really got
acknowledged the story.
Police in Gastonia, about 20 miles from Charlotte, begged locals on Facebook to avoid firing their guns into the air in hopes of shooting down the balloon, which a National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration model predicts could be in the area on Saturday morning. So right now, you could potentially go out there and shoot it. If you had a powerful enough weapon, and I doubt most people do. Like, it would have to be
but
something...
it doesn't hurt to try, Mike.
Granted, yeah, you could get lucky. Your bullet might catch some sort of air pocket and go up, or... a tornado might grab your bullet and toss it up 60,000 feet, but it's just not practical. So it's a 1 in a billion shot. You're not going to hit it, most likely. Officials also urge residents not bother contacting them if they do spot the balloon, explaining that they do not have the capability of responding to an object that they believe to be around 60,000 feet in the air. So don't even call us about it. If you see something in the sky, do not even call us. And I like the image. They have an old guy with a double-barrel shotgun
with
taking aim.
Gun, yeah.
It's like he's shooting skeet out there.
Yep.
That's what he's doing. So. If the now infamous Chinese weather balloon makes its way over Gastonia, please do not call the police and report it, the Facebook post said. We don't have the capability to respond to an altitude of 60,000 feet to check it out. We're pretty sure the feds would want us to stay out of it. Pretty sure. You don't know. Let's see how high the helicopter. What's the maximum altitude for a police helicopter? I would say 10,000 feet.
Yeah, 10 to 12. I mean, it's so depending on how the if they have oversized intakes and the better engine coolers, they can squeak up to the 18,000 range. But they're not made for that.
Potentially, you could probably get Elon Musk to have his private jet, like, kind of buzz this thing and take it down for us. Right? We could do that.
What about?
No, that's a helicopter.
That's a helicopter. What about Jeff Bezos and his penis rocket?
Oh, there we go. Yeah. He could easily do it.
Could he fly up there with his penis rocket, and then you've got Shatner leaning out the window with a shotgun?
Yeah, I'd love to see that. That's the only way to get shit done. Get those two guys to do something. Get those two boys on board.
Give Shatner a shotgun and just crank the window down.
What is that?
Alternatively, one other suggestion that no one else has thought about yet, but where's Jetpack Man when you need him?
Yeah, no shit. The famed Jetpack Man has been reported flying over various airports on the West and East Coast. Unknown. The FAA is aware of Jetpack Man, and so are the feds. They're involved, and we haven't heard an explanation as to exactly what that is. Some people suspect drones. Some people suspect a Jack Skellington balloon, that character from the Nightmare Before Christmas, like launching a balloon that looks like that character up into the air 5,000 feet and then come back down. But there's no confirmation. Those are all just theories about Jetpack Man.
Give us an email at ourbigdumbmouth@gmail.com. Check out obdmpod.com for all the social media and donation links.